So today I wanted to talk a little bit about hybrids. Hybrids, as you know, are a pretty hot topic because they're talking about hybrids happening by 2030, which is coming right up. And they want to hybridize human beings with machines and all kinds of cool stuff. And we know that Stalin, back in his day, not too long ago, 60 years, 70 years ago, or whatever, he decided he was going to hybridize human beings and make a perfect army by mating human women with apes. And he sent a lot of Russian women down to Africa to mate with apes, and that was unsuccessful. So then he brought apes up to the Soviet Union or up to Russia and had women caged with apes. I mean, this did not happen too long ago, and this guy was one of the most powerful people alive, and everybody emulates him. Everybody wants to be Joseph Stalin today, you know? So it's happening, folks. And I want to look at the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel talks about some hybrids if you dig into it a little bit. So we'll look at that. We'll talk about India, which is also related to the Tower of Babel in some fashion, perhaps, and just see where this goes. So what sin was it that was so heinous that it caused God himself to look at the earth and mankind and animal kind and to decide to annihilate everyone, to destroy everything because it was so corrupt? So in Jasher 4:18 it says, "And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals one species with the other, in order therein to provoke the Lord. And God saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and all animals." So this was DNA manipulation. This was hybrids. They were creating hybrids, one animal with another. Jubilees chapter 10:5 then says, "And thou knowest how thy watchers, the fathers of these spirits, acted in my day. And as for these spirits which are living, imprison them, and hold them fast in the place of condemnation. And let them not bring destruction on the sons of thy servant, my God, for these are malignant, and created in order to destroy." Jubilees chapter 9 states about the son of Ham, "And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock. And he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it. For it contained the teaching of the watchers, in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars, and all the signs of heaven." Now this is after the flood. So he found something written down on a pillar or a column that actually talked about what the watchers did, what sins they did before the flood, and he kept them, and he didn't tell Noah about it. And lastly, and this is kind of interesting, it sounds like men were taking the women they were attracted to and giving them something, some chemical or something, to keep them sterile so that they could retain their figures, and they were staying with these women that weren't able to bear children and using them for, fornication, while their actual wives, the women that they used to make children, they didn't stay with at all. They just neglected them completely. And it says, Jasher 2:20, "And some of the sons of men caused their wives to drink a draught that would render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and thereby their beauty appearance might not fade. And the childbearing women appeared abominable in their sight of their husbands as widows, whilst their husbands lived, for the barren ones only they were attached. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, You may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden,
God hath said, Ye shall not eat it, neither shall thy touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
That we are gaining now, especially the powers of biotechnology and artificial intelligence, are really going to transform us into gods. And I don't mean this as a kind of literary metaphor, I mean it in the literal sense.
I am the creator. I am the creator. I am God.
Divine abilities, especially the ability to create and to design life.
So Satan, when he was created, was the most beautiful angelic being ever created. And he was loved by everybody. I mean, he was it. And he had pride because of it, yes. And I think when Eve was created, she must have been absolutely gorgeous. She was stunning. She was God's most perfect creation after Adam. And when Satan saw how beautiful she was, he absolutely hated her. He wanted her dead. He wanted her gone. And so he tempted her to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And when she did that, he knew that she would die. And his punishment was that he would have to crawl on his belly. He was this creature that could fly around. He could do anything, you know. He was an angel, top of the angel list. And suddenly he had to crawl on his belly for the rest of eternity. And he heard and he knew that Eve would have a son, an offspring, that would crush his head someday. And he didn't know when. He didn't know if it was going to be in 2 years or 2,000 years. He had no idea. And so when Eve had Cain and Abel, the two sons, and Abel was the son that was loved the most by God, he thought Abel was it. You know, Abel was going to be the one that was going to crush his head. And so he kind of spurred and pushed Cain, I believe, into killing his own brother. And that way he was safe for a while, at least until Seth came along. So
how do hybrids relate to the Tower of Babel? It says in the Bible, And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they began to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not be understanding of one another's speech. That's Genesis 11:7. So for whatever reason, the Bible doesn't say a whole lot about Babylon and the fall of the Tower of Babel. It just has like a paragraph or two, of this major event. But the book of Jasher goes into a little bit more detail and is referenced by the Bible. And it says, And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. It goes on to say, there are three types of divisions here. And so they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Number 1, those who said, We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, We shall smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, We will ascend to heaven and fight against him, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. He allowed them to live. So let's take a look at the first one. Those who became like apes and like elephants. Hanuman was born son of Vayu, the god of the wind, and Ajana, a celestial nymph. You're probably wondering how the son of the wind god and a nymph turned out to be a monkey. The answer is that Anjana once angered a sage who cursed her to be born as a monkey. So that sounds kind of interesting, but biblically speaking, are these the people that were changed into monkeys? And so you have this young deity that people even today worship, and they even today celebrate the monkey man syndrome, as it were. And this is mostly in India. His name is Hanuman, almost like human, but not. It's Hanuman. And Hanuman is part human and part ape. He is a human hybrid. Now, why would God do this? And what happened to Hanuman today? These are all good questions, of course. But Hanuman has quite a story. And then the elephant human hybrids also are worshipped in India and also in Indonesia and other places. Ganesh. And a lot of people here in the States actually worship Ganesh as well. This is a stone sculpture of Ganesh in Indonesia. And Ganesh has an interesting story, the origin and birth. Ganesh is actually the offspring of a demonic entity called Shiva. And why do I call him a demonic entity? Besides the fact that he carries a pitchfork. Shiva called for his gang of demons, the Bhutaganas, who fought ferociously with the boy. This is the boy, their offspring, his own son. And his son was guarding his wife who was taking a bath. So Shiva wanted to see her, and this ensued. However, the youngster easily held his own against such fearsome adversaries, those demons, and Vishnu himself was forced to intervene in the form of Maya. So Vishnu was able to take on a female form as well as a male form. He was transgender. Once the boy was distracted by her beauty, the demons, or Shiva himself, lopped off the boy's head. And at the commotion, his girlfriend, or she's not a wife, she's a concubine, Pravati, who was human, by the way, ran from her bath and remonstrated with Shiva for so summarily killing their son, and repentant Shiva ordered a new head to be found for the boy. And as the first animal they found available was an elephant, voila, he became an elephant boy. The head of an elephant on a little boy, and that was their child. So there are stories about Hanuman. When Hanuman was young, he had the ability to fly, and one day he looked up at the sun and thought the sun was a fruit and flew into the sky to snatch it. And the king of the gods, it says, saw him and struck him with a thunderbolt and knocked him back down to earth. So was that Yahweh, hitting the Nephilim or the son of a fallen angel? Could be. And it says that Hanuman is the one that led a group of monkeys to help Rama receive and destroy a demon king in Sri Lanka. So there's more to this story. Rama has a concubine that gets kidnapped by an evil demonic entity that lives in Sri Lanka, an island off of India. And when Rama goes to retrieve his concubine, he takes his army to the edge of the ocean, and when he's trying to cross, a group of apes, some ape hybrids, come and help him construct a floating bridge across the sea by writing the name of Rama on the stones, and according to the legends, those stones do not sink. And so he's able to cross and war and get his concubine back. Now, our current technology, we have satellites roving the earth, and we now have the ability to look down upon India and Sri Lanka, and lo and behold, there is a land bridge just under the water that attaches those two. So it's very possible this is some sort of a true story, or there's some truth to it. Now here's a temple in India that looks like it has a cow in front of it, kind of like the ancient Israel up in northern Israel at the time of Baal, the temple of Baal, as well as the Egyptians. Take a look. And I think they're doing hybrids here.
But even its real name is debated by experts. As soon as I enter, I'm surprised by its design. There is no main entrance to this temple complex. This is shocking. You can take any different. Not only that, directly in front of the temple, within 100 feet language, and Yali is a hybrid of elephant and tiger. That's why they took the first half of the word Yane, which means elephant, and the last half of Huli, which means tiger, and called as Yali. And this Yali may be a genetic hybrid prototype, which could have been combined with many other animals' DNA to create more new species. Now the question is this just fiction, or were ancient Indians manipulating DNA and experimenting with these animal hybrids? A variety of Yalis, and we even have specific names for them. The first one is Harinyali, or deer hybrid. You can see the curly horns of the deer here. The second one is Simayali, which is a lion hybrid. I think the face and mane clearly show it is a lion. And the third one, again, a deer hybrid. And the fourth one is even more strange because it has the trunk of an elephant, but it also has the horns of a deer. It is very odd to see regular elephants standing side by side. I wonder what the sculptors are trying to say. A human hybrid with Yali. The human hybrid is actually called Niryali. It is quite fascinating to see a hybrid with the body of a Yali, but the face of a human. It is somewhat eroded due to time. But on the other side, the face is crystal clear. Look at the nose, it looks completely human. But it has fangs sticking out of his mouth, and it has mane like a male lion. I don't think it has eyelids though. Did ancient people actually experiment with genetic modification and create new species? Of course, basically modifying human beings. Perhaps the appearance of the doorkeepers can answer this question. Look at this guy. He has curly hairdo spreading out of his head and has fangs sticking out of his mouth. Is he human or genetically modified, or is he like a vampire or something? He also does not seem to have any eyelids. See how his eyeballs are sticking out. But I like his fashion sense. He's wearing shorts, but it is so thin and see-through. And he's wearing armlets on both hands. Look at that, he's wearing demon-shaped armlets.
So it's amazing how many demonic-looking sculptures there are in India. I've never seen anything like it. Either they had a great imagination, or they were seeing these things, or they were being led or instructed by them. And they seem to guard temples quite a bit in India. Not unlike Egypt, where we have dog-headed men and men that have the snake heads and all kinds of things that look like hybrids as well. Is this a carryover from before the flood? One of my theories is that perhaps at the time of the flood, the Nephilim got together and created part fish, part human, part fallen angel, or part Nephilim creatures that could survive an entire year in the water. I know that some of the people in Canaan, had the heads of lions, according to Moses when he sent scouts in to take a look at Canaan, and they also had a god that had the body of a fish that people worshipped at that time that the Israelites fought. Also recall the visions of Daniel and Ezekiel, and of course John's Revelation, where they had angels around God that had 9 human heads as well, heads of a bull. So maybe this is Lucifer's way of copying heaven. Who knows?